So without much ado, I begin. The title of my paper is Biopolitics and Necropolitics of the White Culture in the Judith Wright's Bora Ring. So I would try and focus that how Judith Wright locates the biopolitics of white culture in her world of the lost Aboriginal culture in Australia in the poem Bora Ring. To know about the biopolitics, we have to quote Foucault. Foucault defines biopolitics as something which deals with the population as a political problem, as a problem that is at once scientific, political, and as a powers problem. I end the quote. With respect to the population and the governance in Australia, Wright emphasizes the viability of Foucauldian biopolitics in understanding the genomics and exercise of mutating the biopolitical space in the topography of Australia. The androcentric white culture has eroded the biospace of the Aboriginals into the ignominious annihilation, where white population is characterizable in Foucauldian sense, and the black or the colored or the Aboriginals are the racially other. And here the white culture is massifying, and that is directed not as a man, and it is more as a species. It's almost like the white culture is eroding the very species of the Aboriginal culture. It is an attack not on individuals. It is an almost a kind of a genocidal attack, culturally depriving individuality and identity in the Australian circuit. And therefore, when we say about the biopolitics, we have to look into the variety of approaches that develops in the poem Bora Ring, which has a lineage that it's not only biopolitics, it gets into more on a necropolitics. Now when we say necropolitics, moving from biopolitics to necropolitics, as Achille Mbembe discusses in his essay Necropolitics, is more than a right to kill. The Foucauldian droit de glaive. Now when we say droit de glaive, I wanted to point out the rule of droit means right, the glaive is sword. It's almost like the kill order. So who is giving the kill order? So it is not an individual who is giving kill order. It is not it is rather a culture which is almost eroding the other culture and giving this kill order. So when we look into the cultural values and the scientific paradigms and the technology which are meant to utilize the natural sources biopolitically, has rather used it in a way which becomes necropolitics. Now when we see the poem, we see that my study of the poem Bora Ring marks the white man's prioritized negotiation of the placental presence of the natural resource as an archetypal symbol of the Aboriginal life, and its loss, converting the biopolitics of nature into the necropolitics, where eros of nature travels from thanatos of ecology to the necros of the Aboriginal civilization. Now when I use such terms as eros, so what we actually mean by the eros, so this is where the first line comes. The song is gone. So this is where the eros is. So the song is gone. The song itself is the eros, that of the culture. Eros is an energy which flows and develops and creates. Then the song is gone. So when we say song is gone, the word gone itself stresses on the thanatos, something which enters the dead matter. Now when we say thanatos, it still has energy. It may be a dead matter, but it still has energy inside the matter. But when we say necros, that is where the energy in the matter ends. So the flow from the eros to thanatos and thereby finally to the necros. The dance is the secret with the dancers of the earth. Now, this is where the Gaia philosophy comes in. So, what do we understand about the Gaia philosophy? Gaia philosophy talks about the earth not only being a center of creative impulse, it is the center of the centered identity. It is the identity of an identity. It is where the I do not dent the E. The rituals useless and the tribal story lost in an alien tale. The story is gone. So this folkloric story is no more viable, visual or visible in both the retinal gaze and the social gaze. The total declination of it. Now, this is where we see the lost and alien tale. Why the word alien is being used? Why amidst this the word alien is being thrown? It is like what Foucault has pointed out as the biopower in the governmentality. So when we have the biopower which is forcing, enclosing the space, it creates a kind of a claustrophobia for an aboriginal culture. Now, in this regard, we can look at Frantz Fanon. Frantz Fanon has talked about the violence again in his Wretched of the Earth, Le Damné, Le Terre Damnée. So he says in context of French colonization in Algeria about the encoded skin. So what is encoded skin? Encoded skin is something, the skin itself has an encrypted message of origin which has no origin, or rather if it does have an origin of course, but we cannot trace the origin in it. Now when we see the line, only the grass stand up, again going by the Gaia philosophy, only the grass stand up. Now this is where I like to quote, life was already politicized irrevocably under the sovereign power, Agamben. So life was already politicized. So here the politicizing of an not only existence but or identity, but the life itself is politicized and sealed into a crushing objecthood. So here another quote by Foucault, sealed into a crushing objecthood. So here the aboriginal culture has been crushed into an objecthood. And that is why to mark the dancing ring. So you have the ring there, but there is no individual to dance there. The dance is gone, the song is gone, the culture is gone. It is inevitably alienated into an alien space. So, when we are using Foucault, we also can use the identity of the heterotopian origin, the space inside the language. So, Judith Wright is creating not only a place, but a space inside the language, and a heterotopian space. So, what Foucault says, le discours est produit en place d'une place. So, it is producing a place inside the place. It's a heterotopian space inside the language. So, the language of Judith Wright itself creates a heterotopian space where individuality is being put under a severe pressure of identity and misidentification. To mark the dancing ring, the apple gums, posture and mime, a past corroboree, a murmur of broken chant. Now, why the chant is broken? Chant is something again very tribal, and chant is very different from singing. What is the basic difference between singing and chant? If the song is broken, so fine, the song is gone. So singing is an act of cultural production, whereas chant is more associated with the spiritual aspect. The absence in the spirituality is also being pointed out. Now, Judith Wright, as the racially other, has a very different approach to an aboriginal custom, as otherwise Aboriginal would have to their own context. So the difference in their attitude and approach comes when he says the broken chant. So why, from his point, like Judith Wright is occupying an Archimedean space. She cannot come into the space of the Aboriginal culture. She occupies a very Archimedean space, and for her, it's not only a nostalgia or an amnesiac nostalgia. It is rather a standpoint where she cannot come in. The hunter is gone. Now again and again the word gone, and this kind of sentimentality is attached to the Wright's articulation. The hunter is gone, the spear is splintered underground. The painted bodies. Now painted bodies is another very interesting thing. Like the Japanese used tattoos as a cultural symbol. India has used Mehendi as some part of cultural symbol in many places. So what does a painted body, and why did they paint their body? The Aboriginals painted their body as not as something of a kind of a fashion designing. It is not a fashion. It is rather their cultural identity. So the painting does not mask their identity. The painting reinforces individual identity in the Aboriginal sentiments. A dream of the world. Now what dream is this? Is this the Australian dream? No, this is not the Australian dream. This is where the clash of the two dream. The space of the dream is different. On the one hand, you have a dream where there is a utopian dream, where the Australian dream, the dream of economic boom, that these dreams no longer function here. This is a different kind of a dream. This is a parallel and alternate reality where they could have existed and they don't exist anymore. World breathed, sleeping and forgot. The nomad feet are still. So the nomads, who are the nomads? Why the Aboriginals are nomads? So if we go by the etymology of the word nomad, the etymological significance of the word nomad means no place. It does not have a particular place. Now, in their society, in the Aboriginal society, they had place. So why they were named nomads? Their naming of the nomads reflect their living style. They're moving from one cultural center to the other and continuing the ritualistic pattern. On the other hand, only the rider's heart holds as a cyclist shadow. So what is this shadow? This shadow is what falls in between. If you use the words from T.S. Eliot, between the conception and creation there falls a shadow. So the shadow itself talks about a lot of things. A lot of identity crisis, lot of ideological crisis, and when something is under shadow, this is a very technical term as well. Shadow is not a mirror image. Shadow is something which has a footprint somewhere. So the origin, as we trace inside the shadow, is not in the individual of the identity. And that is where the necropolitics comes. The death, the kill order is given. The death order has come. The persons in the blood of the ancient curse. The fear as old as Cain. So this is not where Judith Wright is trying to say the Aboriginals being the dark ones or the evil ones. But neither can she be free from her etymological space of regarding the dark individuality, the darkness inside. So here I would just like to bring in a little bit of Conrad, the heart of darkness. So darkness in the heart and heart in the darkness is where, this is exactly where Judith Wright is also asking the question, whose heart is more darker or whose darkness has more heart? So this interchangeability and of darkness with the space of light. Now, when we take the space of light, we can use two very distinct concepts by the German philosophers, the Webe's Licht and the Dunkel's Licht. Webe's Licht means a white light, and Dunkel's Licht means the dark light. So, the Webe's Licht, the white light, does not shine through the whiteness of the individual. It, as Frantz Fanon has written in his Black Skin, White Mask and Black Skin, where he says that the whiteness of the skin does not emancipate the darkness of the skin. So here we see the necropolitics of the Darden, the government and the governmental procedures has encrypted the code of dismissiveness in the darkness of the aboriginals. Thank you.